What's up, everyone? Today we have Snapper. It looks like it's in pretty good condition. It's not the newest thing in the world, but man, it's pretty nice. The owner does have the bag. He asked if I wanted it. I said no, not really. I don't really need it. So here we go. Now he basically said that he knew it needed a new spark plug, and that's why it wasn't running. So he went to the store and got an E3, put it in there. Now it's not running still. So he believes it could have been a bad plug. He doesn't know, but pretty much everyone thinks that every small engine mechanic in the world basically has the skills of replacing spark plugs, because that's always the problem. So now that we figured it's not, it's our time to figure out what it is. Now, I gave this a pull and it doesn't feel too good. It seems like it doesn't have a whole lot of compression. But we're going to do a little investigation here. So let's see what we have. Besides me pulling on it, I've never done anything. Oil is there. Could be a little higher. Fuel is full. It smells pretty good, actually. Primer bulb looks to be in fairly decent condition. Plug is installed. I think I'm going to undo the undo the air filter, put a little starting fluid down the throat and see if that gets us anywhere, and if not, we might look into spark. For the longest time I just used carb cleaner. Well, yes, that will work, don't get me wrong, and in fact I still might in a pinch. I like using this. It has upper cylinder lube, so I'm assuming that means it's more or less maybe some type of oil in it. I like this because it also gives me a little bit more peace of mind that if I put a little in a 2-cycle, it's not going to be as horrible. Oh, the bail's taped down. That's not usually a good thing. I don't want this to run forever. I'm going to cut this off. There we go. I do not want, if it does continue running and maybe the self-propel goes and I'm trying to lift it and I can't stop it, you know, that doesn't seem like a good thing. Let's give it a pull and spray. Something I did notice is that the throttle cable on this is all jacked up. If there's a kill in there, which I don't know why there would be on a mower, but if there is, that potentially could be a problem. Usually there's only a kill on stuff like pressure washers. Nope, nothing. So I definitely think we have a little bit of a spark problemo. I took the liberty of taking the cover off and the recoil off. That's really not that difficult. A trained monkey can do that. So, and if we have a bad coil, we're gonna have to take it off anyway, replace the coil. If it's not the bad coil and it's my suspicion of something wrong with the cylinder or the valves and causing no compression, then we're going to take the head off anyway, and we're going to do that to begin with. So either way, this is going to have to happen. So I'm going to spin it with a drill. Oh, you know what? It works a lot better when the bail is pressed down. It's not going to be starting because, well, it's not starting. was starting, it wouldn't be here. It'd be mowing someone's grass. Or not mowing. Who knows? I don't know this person. Little tip, if you have one of these drills, don't just let go. You will just jerk your hand off. I think it's the clutch in there that will give you a good wrist injury. So I didn't see anything. We're going to put in a known, well, a suspected good plug, a Briggs and Stratton, if I could get it out of the packaging. Brand new plug. And try. There we go. Just in case, let's do it the other direction. I'll do that because if someone tried to do this before and they put the coil in upside down, which it's really hard on this type, but I like to just foolproof it and make sure by spinning it both directions. Still nothing. So I don't think it was the E3. Actually, one step we forgot to do. So how these work is with a gasoline engine, they cut spark to turn it off. They don't cut the fuel. So how you cut spark on this is you ground it. If we take off the means of grounding, which is the grounding wire, then there's nothing to ground it, which means it should theoretically run no matter what. Maybe there's a cut or something's exposed on the ground wire and it's grounding out somewhere. That's always a possibility. Things get hot, things get rubbed in, stuff like that. And nope, and I just jacked my wrist. And no. So more likely than not, we have a bad coil. Now you can get a multimeter and do some tests. I don't remember if I exactly have a video on it. If I do, I'll list it. In fact, if I don't, I might just make one with this coil now since I have a good example. But more likely than not, this is a bad coil. How that happens, you know, there's windings and everything inside, so there's really nothing you can do too much with this besides replace it. I asked the guy, because I told him it could be the coil, do you want a new one or is a one that is just works okay with you? He's like, you know, I don't care, whatever's fastest. I need to get this mowed by the weekend, by the end of the weekend, and today's Saturday. Here we go. So, you know, for whatever reason, some people believe that if you have rust on there, it's not going to work. And to a certain point, I'm sure that's true. If it's rusted all the way through, it's obviously not going to work. Or if it's rusted to the flywheel, obviously not going to be working. But it's a magnet. Magnets are like the honey badger or honey weasel or whatever it was. It doesn't give, you know what. So rust is usually not a problem. So when you get a new coil, it should come off relatively the same engine. It definitely needs to have the same diameter flywheel. And the mounting needs to be the same, obviously, because you have to put it on. Right here we have a new one, well, new good one, at least I hope it's good. But it came off the same engine type, has the same diameter flywheel, it's going to go in exactly the same way, so we shouldn't have a problem. Times you come into problems a lot are when you're doing this on a clone engine. Those coils can differ greatly. Like, they'll have slots in these, and they'll just mount differently. It's sometimes can be a problem, and this is pretty self-explanatory because this whole top section stays. Let's tighten it down a little, not all the way though. So the technical amount you're supposed to do this is 10 thousandths, or a width of a business card. I have a piece of thick paper here that I'm going to fold and use that as a guide. It's roughly 10 thousandths. So you shove this, pull this back so I can put it in between. There we go. Shove this in between the flywheel and the magneto. I think I tightened this side down too much. Yeah. Now this side does not want to go in. There's always one, I tell you. There we go. Where's the magnet? There it is. That's another thing. Check to see if your magnet's working. If it's not working, then maybe it got overheated. You know, there's a few different reasons. It just got old, maybe. Who knows? But I mean, age, that's pretty old. What's like 10,000 years where it can lose its magnetism naturally? I hope you don't have a mower from 8,000 BC. I think those are called camels. Now it's not rubbing, and we have a good gap. Let's just make sure this is tight. Now, at this point, you can test it or plug in the kill wire. We'll test it the way I would argue is probably the better way, because if it works, I don't want to have to think about what to do next. I just want to put it back together. You'd be surprised how stuff like this will, oh no, I forgot, moments. So let's get you a closer look. This E3 plug has never seen the light of fuel. Well, maybe fuel, but it never did anything with it. It's brand new, so theoretically it should be good to go if we have the good coil, of course. I don't know if you saw that because this wonky setup, but we have spark. That was not the case earlier. So I'm going to put the cover back on. I'm going to straighten out that throttle cable too, because that was just aggravating me. So I'll bring you back once it's all put together. So let's say you're not a small engine mechanic and you don't have access to used coils all around. This code is on the front, and sometimes it's on this plate. It's a little easier when it's on this plate because you can see it just by walking by. But this one's on the front. As you can tell, it says model, type, code. We don't care about the code. That's more or less tells you when it was made and potentially where. I know it's at least when, but we're not going to worry about that. If you type in this model number and type all the way from 1 to the last one, you'll go to Google, type that in, you'll find a variety of parts websites that all have the same diagram. Find the coil number, order from that parts website, or copy the part number, go to eBay, Amazon, wherever you want to go, order it, and it should work. But I still like to look at the picture and just make sure that it has the same general qualities. Specifically, these holes, some of them are a little different. So if you do need to buy one, that's how you look it up. Sometimes you just expect to see things, and sometimes you don't expect to see them. One of the things I was not expecting to see is this cable like that. You don't want that. Don't do that. I've seen that a few times, and the only thing you're going to be doing is breaking your cable. I'm going to pull down the bail to make sure that it's good. Considering he thought it was no spark, I could imagine him thinking that the mechanism wasn't being pulled all the way to release spark. But that's more than enough. It's good. So don't do that. It's not a good idea. Like I said, the only thing you're going to be doing is just breaking the cable. If you need a shorter cable, a much better solution is to drill a new hole on your handlebar. Even that's not the best. The best one is to get the right cable. But, you know, if you don't want to, that's an option. This has nothing to do with spark, but it's kind of a bonus material. There's a bend right here, and that bend was where this actual factory Z bend, or Z, wherever you live, I'm sure it's different, but that's how it's supposed to work. Now, it's not supposed to be right there. That's just going to jack up your RPM. It potentially would just make it a little too high, a little too low, you don't know. If you need to adjust it, and I mean need to because for whatever reason it's running low, maybe it just got out of tune or whatever, you could bend this forward for more RPM and back for less. But like I said, you should only do that if it somehow went out of adjustment. Here we go. Put it all together. Everything should be good to go. I fixed the wonky cable, also the wonky throttle. We might have to adjust the throttle, but at least it's where it should be. I don't know if this is going to work. I'm just going to give it a couple primes. It definitely sounds like it worked. Nothing more to do except give it a pull. Oh. With no bag, that's like a rocket. I would assume that's a little too fast, actually. So we're just going to push that back. Now, it is on a rabbit, so that was the fastest it should be. We also don't want it to run too long with the filter, which, by the way, that was the filter. So I don't suspect the dirty filter being a problem here. I will say though, this system that they have for their bag on snappers, and others I suppose have it too, doesn't make putting an air filter on very easily, and it most definitely does not make taking a fuel tank off, because there is a 3/8 underneath here and you have to take off that. Yeah, man, I'm gonna get sand blasted. I'll stand to the side, that's what I'll do. and Bob's your uncle. There we go. Should be good to go. So if you have a snapper, or more specifically a Briggs and Stratton, could be the Quantum, pretty much any Briggs and Stratton flathead, or to be honest, any lawnmower engine or small engine for that matter, this is going to be the process that you're going to want to take to find spark. First things first, check your grounds, make sure it's nothing stopping it. Hence why I was looking at the throttle to begin with. Mowers, you usually don't have that problem. If you have a bale, you know, some lawnmowers have like a clutch where you don't really have anything, you actually have to turn it off, and the bale isn't a bale for the kill, it's more of a bale for the clutch. That's something different. That one you do want to check to make sure your grounds are okay. Next, check your plug. Try a new one. I have a video on how to check your plug. If you think it's bad, you can get a multimeter out and test it. If that's still not working, you're going to have to check your coil. Do what we did, spin it over, make sure, unplug the ground, make sure, just completely isolate it, make sure there's nothing there to potentially cause a problem. Because like I said, if that ground wire has any type of break in the shield around it, or the whatever it is around it, and it's grounding out on the cylinder head or anywhere, it's going to be as if you have no, like, it's always off. So check that. If you disconnect that and you still get no spark, you can check the coil, but at this point, even if you check it, the only thing you're going to be doing is really justifying why you need to spend at least $15 to $30 to maybe $40 for a new coil. But it's not going to change the fact you're still going to have to buy a coil. Yeah, and at that point you just install it 10,000s in between the flywheel. Now when you put it on the flywheel, you notice how I spun it. You need to make sure that the magnet is actually touching the coil in between the paper. So the paper's there to kind of keep a distance, so because the magnets usually stick out just a little bit. Sometimes they're flush, but it's always a good practice to put it on the magnet. And at that point, you should be fine. If all your grounds are good, you have a good plug, and you just put a new coil in there, make sure you put it in the right way. Some of them, especially Hondas or the Honda clones or anything of the sort, there is an orientation. If you put it in backwards, you could cause it to, I want to say it's going to spark late. Or maybe early, but the timing's going to be off either way. Bad timing is never a good thing, even if it's only a couple degrees, so keep an eye out on that. Other than that, that should be it. So this is how you fix spark. If you have any questions, leave me a comment below. Definitely put a thumbs up if you like it, subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next video. Have a good night.